Hello and welcome to another edition of Power Wheel, a production of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN. The headlines. Ebonyi government clears hurdles to accelerate power transmission projects. TCN set to raise transmission wheeling capacity to 10,000 megawatts. Raising power transmission wheeling capacity, our top priority, UG Mohammed. TCN has taken a new dimension in recent times as it is focused on instilling discipline in the Nigerian electricity market. The market operator recently suspended some non-compliant power distribution companies, but lifted it immediately they complied. The market operator at TCN, Engineer Edmond Amobi Eje, in the interview segment spoke about this and how MO operates in the power sector. Ensure you enjoy this edition as we bring you more informative reports in the Nigerian electricity supply industry, NESI. I am Chinwenwa Anyanwu. The Ebonyi State government says it has cleared major hurdles of right-of-way and that it is pooling resources to enable the Transmission Company of Nigeria accelerate the various bulk power transmission projects in the state.
The governor of Ebonyi State, Mr. Dave Umahi, disclosed this when he visited the management of TCN at the corporate headquarters in Abuja. He said the purpose of the visit was for him to follow up on the Memorandum of Understanding MOU it has signed with TCN earlier on collaborating with TCN so it can realize key bulk power transmission projects that will deliver more electricity to the state.
You had some constraints which the MOU has taken off your shoulder, even though it's more than what I expected to do. But I said I can stop a few other things to do that. If you want me to build a small quarter, I need the drawing. If you want me to build planes, I need the drawing. I want somebody who will stay with me there and to see what I'm doing. So it's not happening. And then we need timeline, on this project.
Mr. Umahi said there was need for more MOU to cover the various infrastructure the state was executing to provide increased bulk power to keep them running when they are ready.
I thought we were going to sign 2 additional MOU, and that's the international market. They've evaluated it and so it's very viable. Viable in the sense that we have three new government houses we are building. We have a secretariat, that would house over 50,000 workers, already functioning, about 12 buildings there. We have the mall. Our mall is the biggest in Nigeria, and we are about 80% done. We have the ecumenical center, which is a worship center for all the churches in our state. It's 100% done, and it's the biggest in Nigeria and then the most beautiful. So, which means that this international market, is desirable and is, needed very, very highly.
The governor spoke of the ongoing efforts to raise the capacity building strategies for the state hospital and the quest for industrialization. He called for support from TCN to help it realize these dreams by creating infrastructure that will boost bulk power supply to the facilities.
You have the hospital itself, and the hospital is quite a very large one, and you have the teaching hospital in the same location. You have the primary school, you have the secondary school, you have the, in another location, the school of nursing that is housing over 5,000 people. But beside these schools, you have the industrial cluster. And so this is very, 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 very viable. So all of them are aggregated into one point for this power.
For the Amasiri Transmission Substation project, he said necessary interventions by the state have been made to ensure work progresses seamlessly. Responding, the Managing Director, CEO of TCN, Mr. Osman Gur Mohammed, lauded Governor Umahi for the bold step he has taken to collaborate with TCN in executing critical bulk power transmission projects. He said,
We need to deliver something. You understand what I'm saying? Even when we came the first time, we feel we have not done enough. Now we have come for the second time. We are under pressure on ourselves too. So Adeomi is going to review the memorandum of understanding. Some of the things will be done by the Enugu region, and the regional general manager is here. So Adeomi will tell him what to do. And some of them will have to do from here to go to, some people have to be sent from here. So he set up a team that are going to include the regional office of Enugu and the headquarters here. So he will do it.
For the Ebonyi International Market, Mr. Mohammed said TCN has a system planning unit that carried out a study to determine the spread of power transmission projects across the states. He advised the state government to embrace the eligible customer option to power the facility and other nearby infrastructures directly.
If we connect directly to the grid, that means anytime we have electricity, you have electricity. Okay. So you are not going to be subjected to being Enugu disco distance. That means if we connect this place under eligible customer, okay, you are likely going to get cheaper electricity, okay, and also you are going to get electricity 24 hours. And it will also require that you get cheaper electricity, and TCN will sign what they call liquidated damage. Okay. Means that if you don't supply, you have a recourse to say, look, so time you refuse to supply us. And that is what we are doing with several industries, which we are going to, this is what we want to apply to Ebonyi State. Okay. And that is why he has to do that work, to establish that yes, the load that is here is up to 2 megawatts per month.
Speaking on the Amasiri Transmission Substation project complaints by Governor Umahi, the TCN head directed the relevant engineers to determine the status and report back for quick resolution.
We want you to go and determine this. And if really the contractor is not in place, I want you to report to Engineer Joe so that we take action. Because if His Excellency go there, nobody's there, and you say they are working, then there's a problem.
From a record 8,100 megawatts transmission wheeling capacity attained in 2018, the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, says it is set to raise that capacity to 10,000 megawatts by reconductoring about 7 critical transmission lines.
The Managing Director, CEO of TCN, Mr. Usman Gur Mohammed, disclosed this last week in Abuja at a quarterly press conference that comprised national, international, and online media platforms. He said TCN will be using the quad conductor, a high-capacity conductor that could carry more bulk power capacity on the same transmission line.
Part of our plan to expand the grid, we are also conducting some lines where we have transformer capacity and the line are not robust enough to carry power to those transformer capacities. Now I want to tell you that the half of the conductors, the high capacity conductor, which we procure, which I told you are conductors that are lighter than the current conductors we have on those lines and are carrying almost about 2.5 times of the current conductors. Half of the conductors are arriving in Nigeria on 27th of this month.
These 7 critical 132 kV line reconducting projects include Onitsha, Oka, Oji River lines, the Ikeja West Alimosho, Ogba, Ota line, and the Alimosho Alausa line. The rest are Kaduna Zaria, Funtua Gusau line, Birnin Kebi, Sokoto, Abaitu, and Kumbotso Dan Angundi 132 kV transmission line. He said upon completion of the projects, the transmission wheeling capacity would rise by additional 2,000 megawatts to 3,000 megawatts.
So these are the lines that we are going to use these high capacity wires and reconductor them. Now, by doing that, I told you, we are going to recover between 2,000 and 3,000 megawatts, which means automatically the grid will shift from 8,100 to at least 10,000.
The TCN head said since the last quarterly conference was held, TCN had achieved more in terms of stranded container recovery and the commissioning of substations and power transformers across the nation.
Out of these 800 containers that were stranded in the port, We have recovered, as last week, 775 containers. We have commissioned so many other new substations. We have commissioned Damaturu, we have commissioned Elisha, we have commissioned Meduguri, we have commissioned several other substations, and we have added several new transformers across the region. For example, we have added 60 megawatts in Ayede, we have added 2 by 60 megawatts in Abeokuta, we have added 60 megawatts in Olorishogo, and several other places.
Mr. Mohammed also gave updates on some critical transmission projects TCN was executing with the $1.661 billion multilateral donor funding it has secured. He said the Abuja Whaling Scheme was on course and that the Northern Corridor Project evaluation study was ongoing. He also said evaluation process was ongoing for the first phase of the Nigerian Transmission Expansion Project, NTEP, to build a 330 kV line from Alaoji, Abia State, to Onitsha in Anambra, which will correct current system disturbances in the region. He also responded to the several questions asked by the pressmen at the conference. Responding on why TCN expect discos to make commensurate investments in their networks to match transmission investments, he said,
the journey for stable grid is on track. But one important message that I want to tell you is that we have discovered that everything we are doing on the grid will amount to nothing except we have something on the distribution side.
The Managing Director of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, Mr. Usman Gur Mohammed, says the agency continually prioritizes increase in the transmission wheeling capacity to make more bulk power available for supply to the final consumer.
Speaking among a panel of experts in the power sector at the NTA Tuesday Live, a national broadcast program on the Nigerian Television Authority, Mr. Usman Gur Mohammed said,
from December 23rd to May 5, 2019, we achieved frequency control of 49.8 and 50.2 Hz, which is the standard of work.
Earlier, the moderator of the program, Mr. Cyril Stober, had set the tone of the discussions for the panelists comprising Mr. Usman Gur Mohammed, a power generation consultant and former director of generation in the defunct NEPA, Engineer Ozoemena Peter, another power sector consultant, Dr. Vincent Dogo, and a former director of technical services at Just Disco, Engineer Hashim Bakori.
Tonight, the focus of NTA Tuesday Live would be how to move the power sector to the next level and ensure steady power supply in the Nigerian nation that will drive industrialization.
To make the transmission grid a digital compliance one, Mr. Mohammed, who is also the chairman of the Executive Board of West African Power Pool, WAP, said TCN has raised $1.66 billion from multilateral donors with which it is digitalizing and automating control rooms of transmission substations. It has also begun procurement for fiber optics across major lines to enable the activation of the supervisory control and data acquisition SCADA system for remote monitoring of a smart grid.
Our intention is that all the problems that we have that made us not to be successful in the past, we have to fix it. Now, part of the problem also that we need to fix is the deficiencies in the control room. Now, those areas that all those deficiencies will be fixed under the Transmission Rehabilitation Expansion Program. There are some substations we've also discovered that we are not touching them under the Transmission Rehabilitation. We have identified them. We are tendering the automation of those substations separately. So this is what we are doing. All the steps that we are doing, we are taking to make that we automate the system, we are doing it. And let me tell you, there is no choice. We have to automate the system because if we don't automate the system, then we have a problem because we are the chairman of West African Power Pool. All small countries like Togo, like Benin, like Ghana, they have automated system. We cannot synchronize with them.
On how TCN is working to solve long-term constraints on bulk power transmission lines to ensure grid system stability, Mr. Mohammed said,
"We are building the transmission network in such a way that everywhere there is a radial, we are making it a loop. That's what we are doing. And every line that we have that has problem, we are fixing it. That is why if you look at on the grid now, there are several inadequacies on the network. Look at the line from Ikwete Bene to Ugwaji to Jos. You know the design, there's a design problem. There's not enough reactor on that line. We have 3 reactors that we have bought now. They have been installed along that line. We have discovered on that line there is no transposition. We are now fixing, we are putting transposition. We discovered that from Ugwaji to Jos, the OPGW is not commissioned. We have called the contractor to come and do it. So this is what we are doing across the value chain. But as I said, all this that we are doing, we have to have commensurate investment on the side of distribution. For generation, Cyril, I want to tell you that if you look at what we are doing with Zingeru is coming on board. Dadinkoa, the problem between the problem that the contractor, the owner has been resolved. We believe that in the next maybe 1 year we'll be able to have a generation in Dadinkoa. That means we'll have a voltage stability around that side because the generator will help us. Look at the Guiwa solar IPP. It's going to be a reality. We're going to have 1,000 megawatt. In fact, the European Union gave us a grant of 25 million euro as part of the evacuation that we're going to do on that line. And the contract is under evaluation as we speak with you.
Urging stakeholders in the sector, especially the DISCOs, to work towards improving power supply before talking of a tariff raise. A panelist, Dr. Vincent Dogo, said,
if the DISCOs were living up to expectation, if I wake up from my street, going down to your street at Wuse 2, and I see PHCN has rolled out capacity engineers, strengthening the lines, cutting the trees, just doing the minimal threshold of things, replacing the feeders, then I will say TCN, I would say the distribution companies are serious. And every Nigerian's hope will arise that at least I'm expecting 24 hours electricity, 7 days in a week, 56 weeks in a year. Then Nigerians are willing and able to pay because this electricity will help move their economy forward. Let me put it this way, Cyril, for every 1 megawatt, for every $1 million appropriately, efficiently put into the electricity market or electricity sector development, the cumulative economic benefit is 12 times.
The Market Operations, popularly called MO, is a section of the Transmission Company of Nigeria. It is responsible for maintaining the register of market participants and general administration of the electricity market. In this interview, the market operator, engineer Edmond Amobi Eje, spoke about the market rules and why it slammed sanctions on Ikeja, Eko, and Enugu DISCOs recently. The sanctions have since been lifted as the 3 DISCOs have fully remedied the default.
The Nigerian electricity market is designed to evolve in stages. In 2004, the first stage started, and that first stage is called the pre-transitional stage. That pre-transitional stage is to test the market, test the rules, test compliance, and then of course it gave room for some of the preconditions for term to be completed. And that actually took place, and by 2015, the regulator felt that the preconditions have been met. One of the major conditions for term is that the distribution companies would push a letter of credit or guarantee to the market operator, and the market operator would
rest on this letter of credit, assuming a disco short pays its invoice, the market operator will fall back to this letter of credit. Recall again that from 2015, the trading concerning transactions concerning energy and capacity was handed over to MBET. And then what was left for market operator, apart from all other market administration processes, is services payment. This services payment involves the service charge for Transmission Company of Nigeria, made up of the TSP, the system operator SO, the market operator, ancillary services, and then the NEC, that's the regulator, and of course service charge for MBET. These make up the services charge that the market operator collects from the discos.
In spite of TEM, the discos have not been paying their full service charge. How is this affecting TCN?
Averagely, what the discos pay to market operator is in the neighborhood of 30%, 32%, 35%. Now, you will ask, how have we been coping? We have small projects we should execute. We have salaries to pay. We have some other overheads. 30% cannot do it because when we draw a budget before ISAP through NEC, you bring out those typical expenses that you must make within the year in order to function properly. But 30%, you know, cannot enable anything happen.
Recently, the MO announced sanctions against some discos. Tell us what this was about.
Today, we deem it fit to make sure that we enforce compliance. This compliance is what we have commenced. First, we have to look at the records and see whether there are some discos that posted the LC that has expired or that are not up to what is supposed to be in line with the market rule. So that's what we started doing. When you say in the last 1 week people have been suspended, yes. We went through our records and discovered that 3 of the discos have failed to live up to their bidding in terms of guarantee posting. And those discos were actually suspended from the market. But happy again to tell you that today, the 3 discos involved have fully complied. Some of them, their security deposit was not up to what it's supposed to be. They were asked to top it up with the formula they know so well.
How will this action strengthen the electricity markets?
We've been receiving some commendation that, at least for once, the needful is being done in the market, and that's instilling discipline in the market, because what has actually brought the market to where it is today is indiscipline in the market, and then that willpower to make sure that the right thing is done and done at the right time. One, if the service providers get their revenue in time and in full, now what do you expect? They will be very, very efficient. The staff salary will be paid on time.
We're bringing you more reports in the Power Flash segment. Please don't go away. We're glad you followed through on this edition. Join us next week on the same station for another edition of Power Wheel. This episode and the previous ones are available on our YouTube channel. You can also connect with us on these other platforms showing on your screen. I am Chinwenwa Anyao. Enjoy the rest of your day.